reaction, another lawyer reacts. Another roommate issue, very common. It's ones that I see a lot. This one, apparently, the plaintiff rented a room in the defendant's house. Landlords and tenants as roommates in houses can be dicey setup. So let's just get right into it and see what happened.
This is the plaintiff, Andrew Charles Engelman. He says he rented a room in the defendant's house, and after he was there a short time, the guy rented another room to a third person, and none of them got along. Besides, the defendant had a key to his room, and he would enter whenever he felt like it without permission. The drunk then locked him out of the house. He paid the rent and security, and what he did was illegal. Bottom line, he moved out and is now owed $2,400 for prepaid rent.
I like the lockout thing. I feel like every time there's a roommate dispute, the opening part is always he was locked out. I'm not sure why the lockout thing is so popular. I'm not sure why people insist on locking people out. I find it very bizarre. It's unnecessary. It's also illegal. But let's see what happens.
This is the defendant, Carlos Edward Lennon. He says the plaintiff was a slob who ate and left stinking rotten food in his room and it caused a bug problem. Thank goodness that guy moved out. But when he took off, he left a big mess for him to clean up. He had to have it professionally cleaned, painted, and had to fix the floors. Oh, him? No way. He's accused of not giving a tenant his privacy. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $1,500 for all he's out.
All parties, please raise your right hand. Be seated. Come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay. Andrew Charles Engelman, you are suing your former roommates, I guess, and landlord for Carlos Edward Lennon for $2,400 that you say he owes you for rent for April and the last 2 months' rent. You are counterclaiming against him $1,500 for loss of time and having to take off of work and cleaning and finding a new tenant.
I moved in on January 11th. That was Wednesday, the second week of January. When I moved in,
Did you have a lease?
No, there was no lease. It was a month to
verbal,
month.
month to
Yes,
month,
it was.
and verbal.
Yes,
Okay.
and we discussed over text. You know, we have written confirmation of the agreement. You know, here.
And the
in our
agreement
text
was that you would
message.
pay how much?
Is that I would pay $2,400, which was going to be the rent for January, and whatever the last 2 months would be.
Okay. So go on. What happened?
All right. So
I see this sometimes in leases. Security deposits, you can kind of decide what they're for. But typically the security deposit, a lot of the times landlords don't use as last month's rent. So you pay, when you move in, you're going to pay the rent for the month that you're moving in, and then you're going to pay a security deposit, which in theory is going to be given back to you, the tenant, if the unit is left in good condition and you have no rental arrears. So it's very odd that the last 2 months of rent were already paid in advance. But if he has in a text message and that's agreed upon, so be it. It's not very often that that's the arrangement, but it's not very often that you come to a roommate agreement through text message. I guess that is maybe often, but not what should be done. I don't like that, but let's see.
after I was there, but after my first week, he brought in another tenant to occupy the third room, so the three of us were all renting the house together.
But
paying-
that wasn't a surprise to you, though, right? Like you knew that
No,
was-
they
right,
were,
okay.
3 rooms, so 3 people, and each of us paying $800 a month to the landlord, Rob.
Okay.
And Anthony, Anthony was the third person who came in. Carlos was acting as the rent manager, collecting $800 from both.
So what went wrong?
On April 8th, that was I believe the second Friday in April, Carlos began getting very angry and argumentative over me not texting him back because he claimed that there was a mess in my room. My room wasn't perfect, but I was keeping it in order. It was livable, and there was no
What do
major
they care
messes.
about how your room looks?
Okay. One, this guy articulates very well. I've never really heard anyone talk about the day of the week or what number of week it is in the month, but he's articulating himself pretty well and staying pretty calm. What the judge is about to, what does it matter what his room is like? Unless his room is attracting rodents, which I think is what they're going to say is the defendants. You shouldn't be in the room because he isn't the owner of the house. But even if he was, you're renting these spaces. So you are giving up occupancy of this space in exchange for money. So they should not be going into his room, like at all. Typically in this scenario, the room would be locked and he would, have a key. There might be that the landlord might have a key as well, but you don't go into that room because you're renting that room. You're giving up possession of that room to him, the plaintiff, the tenant. Shouldn't be going into the room. I find that really disrespectful.
But I don't even care how my daughter's room looks anymore. I've lost that battle 21 years ago. Like I'm trying to. What was the problem?
It was super, super, super dirty. There was bloody, poopy underwears everywhere. He would.
Oh no! Now we're talking about something different. You're talking about odor.
Odor, filth, roaches.
Okay. All right. So it's not that you don't care if he hangs all of his clothes facing a certain way. It's that it was affecting your peace and enjoyment of your part of the apartment. You're Carlos, and who are you?
Brian.
Okay. Do you live there too, or are you more?
No, friend and witness.
Okay. So I can't imagine. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but is that the first time he'd ever complained about the condition in your room, or was that the culmination of many other times that he'd complained?
There were only 2 other complaints that he made about just general sloppiness, like clothes on the floor or papers.
So he tells you that what? Let me see the text.
And here's the texts. And I also have pictures of the room too. This is, what it looks like, and as you can see that I kept it clean myself. No cleaning was necessary.
You have pictures?
I have pictures.
All right. Okay. These are pictures that you took to prove you keep the room nice. So you already know that's why you're taking the pictures.
Can I
Show
see
me
those?
no. Wait, I'm in the middle of something. Show me the text. Are these the texts?
Yes.
Do you have it
those
in
are
your
the
phone? I like seeing them in the phone.
Yes, I have them in
May
my
I
phone
please
as
see
well.
them in the phone? So on April 8th, does he tell? Oh, these pictures look very different.
Yeah, that's probably after he cleaned the room. And you can slide through them. You have to hit the arrow, the right arrow.
See, and the problem with this picture, in this picture, there's about 2 or 3 weeks worth of food lying around, which attracts rodents, attracts roaches, and will stink, including a pan of chicken, a pan of fried chicken.
There's a skillet with about 20 pounds of food in there.
I mean,
And that's what he did
dude,
all
you can't
the
live
time.
like that.
No,
So
I
anyway, what
didn't
does he
live
do?
like
Does he
that.
tell you he wants you to leave?
You see, none of that is actually mine. You see, Carlos had a key to my room that even though I locked it, he would be going in every day and doing who knows what. And
Why
often
would he
I
do
would
that?
have
If
to
you were
clean.
perfectly, if none of it was the way, if this.
See, I don't know if that's
you
something
haven't even
that
seen
he
the
left.
picture yet, so why don't you look at the picture
I
and
have
tell...
no idea if that's
Okay,
something
can you
that
stop
was-
talking and look at the picture?
Yes.
Look at the picture. None of that's yours.
None of that is
So
mine,
he
no.
staged all that
That
for
is-
court.
Okay. It's a very bold accusation to say that someone is going in a room and staging it. But if someone has a key to your room and can get into it, it's not unheard of that that could happen. The guy is going into his room and staging it for this issue. That's kind of bizarre. I don't know why they have a beef with this guy. He seems, maybe he has a very different personality or social group than his roommates. So maybe they want to make this kind of like a party house, or maybe they're just like, he's not in their scene. I don't know. But yeah, the fact that the judge brought up earlier, there was not an issue about odor. There was an issue about like the room being messy. How would they know the room was messy unless they were going in there? And were they going in there when he was around, or were they just going into his room? And yeah, was there ever any complaints that his room had this foul odor, or what the complaints of the messiness revolved around? But it's interesting that he's saying my room was staged.
That is not even something that I had to clean up one day while I was there.
So, just a second. So he staged all that just to make you look bad in court, is what you're saying?
Yes.
So talk to me. What does he tell you on April 8th?
On April 8th, he says, "Can you clean, please? Getting stinky." I said, "It's probably the garbage. I'll take it out."
And so what happens?
So I take the garbage out, I clean it, I clean out the can so that it's, perfectly clean again. I cleaned the can in the bathtub, and I took the garbage bag out, so it was
How do you
a
end
fresh
up moving
bag
out,
and
sir? Let's get to that. What happens? Does he tell you to leave?
Yes, he tells me to leave.
Okay. And does he tell you to leave in a text?
Yes,
Okay. May I see that text?
yes.
Thank you.
On April 7th, he texts you at 6:40. You say, "Oh, it's probably the garbage. I'll take it out." He says, "No, it's all the dirty food all over your room. You're disgusting. Clean your entire room and stop keeping food and garbage in your room. Fix yourself." And then he doesn't answer. So you say, "Are you reading this?" He doesn't answer. So you say, "Get out tonight. I'm throwing your blank to the street."
But I was trying to be nice.
What do you mean? You were kind of impatient. That was a half hour after your
but
first
that was
text.
after months. I gave him the garbage can in his room full of garbage. I gave it to him. I gave him 100 garbage bags. He didn't have a garbage
No, he didn't.
can in his room. I gave him a vacuum. I gave him Windex. I gave him everything. He had a
I was
refrigerator.
busy.
I
I,
had to
didn't
buy
get to
my
reading
own.
any of your texts. I'm coming back right
If you
now.
look at the pictures,
you
he has a
done, ready to
refrigerator
go?
in his
Why?
room.
So where do you come off? Like just demanding he leave
No,
right
no, no,
then?
no.
You have
But
to
that's
give
me
it.
being mad.
Hey,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
talking here. Where do you come off telling a guy you're out tonight?
No, but that's
you
just-
can't do that.
I know I can't do
You
that. I
are-
didn't do that.
No, find the off button on him and press it because I'm about to really lose it. See, you are in the position of being a landlord.
Before she goes into this, when you are the main tenant, like let's say he's the leaseholder, you've effectively become a landlord to your roommates. So you're in charge of them and you're subject to the same rules. So you can't just kick somebody out and partake in your own self-help. Go and pack up your stuff and I'm throwing it out. You're threatening him. Now, there is an issue whether the room was really messy. He's saying it's about 30 minutes. So he's saying, "Hey, you got to come clean up the room." He goes, "All right, I'll throw out the trash." I don't even know if the roommate's there. I don't even know if plaintiff is there. But somehow the guy's in his room. Because again, he has access to the room. And it sounds like the guy's on his way home. Like the plaintiff is on his way home and he's not actually in the room to address any of this. And then he's saying you need to get out. And you have all this stuff. I suspect all of this food and stuff might be what's in that photo. I don't know if it's staged or not. We have yet to get there. But he's saying I don't have any of that food and I don't live like that. And he's saying here's a photo of all this stuff. And I think the person taking the photo is either him or the friend, but the person taking the photo obviously is not the plaintiff. But when you're the leaseholder, you effectively become a landlord, so you can't bully, harass your roommate.
Your landlord can say, "Get out tonight. Are you out yet?" Your landlord has to give you notice. And when it's a month to month, you have to give 30 days notice. So where do you come off telling him you're out tonight, I'm sick of you, like all at once like that? That's exactly what you said.
That is what I said, but that's not. I just told him to leave, but.
Are you out yet? And all because he didn't answer your text in half an hour? You just were
No, because
stewing
this
and
was-
stewing.
this was
and blew
months
up.
of this.
Had clearly you've been telling him clean up because nobody blows up all of a sudden with this kind of filth. You had been telling him that.
I said, get out quick as possible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's it.
you can't do that. Can your landlord do that to you? No, right? You do get what I'm saying.
But
right?
I didn't force him out. I said,
Well,
please
yeah,
get out
right,
as quick
it
as
worked.
possible.
Right. You
It did work.
you told him to get out and he got out. What day did you get out?
April 8th. I think the 8th was the date. It was Friday.
Okay, so you got out that same day. Where'd you go?
My folks, but I paid them rent.
Right. But so you moved your stuff out. You went back with your folks.
Yeah.
All right. So that's April 8th, and then you had paid already for the month of April.
That's right.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you had paid 2 months 2 months. I don't know if we'll call it security or the last 2 months in rent, which you hadn't used up.
That's
so
correct.
he's suing for that. Why aren't you returning it?
I paid it to him cash.
No, he did not.
Do not pay cash. Do not pay cash. And if you pay cash, get some sort of receipt signed by the recipient that you paid cash. But you should also not have like a text message lease. A lot of things you should not have. But paying cash, not good, because now he's saying he didn't get the cash, and maybe he didn't pay the cash. I don't know.
You don't even claim to have paid in cash.
Just a second, just a second. I don't owe him anything. He just left in the middle of the night. The plaintiff lived there in April. Plus, he destroyed the room. I had to have it professionally cleaned and repainted. He ruined the bedroom set. Not once have you claimed to have paid him. When did that little genius idea come out of your brain to say that in court, when not once have you ever claimed to have paid him?
It came out of my mouth just now because he kept banging on my door. He came once, climbed through my window.
When she uses her quiet voice, you know she is steaming inside. I cannot wait to see how he explains this.
Through my window, and he came another day and banged on the door and said he was gonna sleep. He said he was gonna sleep in the house until I paid him. So I just paid him to get rid of him. Why
Wouldn't you have ever said that before now if it's truthful? You would think that if you're getting sued for money that you pay.
Ooh, I think the guy's lying. I think, and you remember in the beginning of the video, you raise your right hand and you swear that you're gonna tell the truth. This sounds like a little bit of a fibby fib. This sounds like he's making up things on the fly because he realizes he's not being persuasive to the judge and he's gonna have to get this money up.
You would think that if you're getting sued for money that you paid, the first words out of your mouth is, I paid it.
Because I didn't pay him then. I paid him after that.
This is the statement that you just signed. You made numerous changes on it for whatever you thought was missing. You added this. This is your handwriting, right? Mm-hmm. You crossed out things. You never once wrote you paid him. By the way, when you were sauntering in here and you both went like that, what was that about?
Oh, I had some crud on my shoulder.
Both of you exactly at the same time? Do you think this is a joke? Do you think this is a joke?
Yes.
Yeah. Get the hell out of my courtroom right now. Get out of my courtroom right now.
This is like people's court. And this is, you know, it's made to look like a court, but I'm pretty sure it's some sort of mediation program or arbitration program. I don't think it's like actual court. But it acts almost in the same way. So to come in and say, like, this is a joke, this kind of personality leads me to believe the plaintiff. Like, I now, like, have more faith in the plaintiff. Like, I was set up. And it had to do what I think I said earlier. I don't think that he was, like, part of their scene. And so he's there, and they're like, oh, we want this guy out of this house. Probably because they wanted maybe to, you know, bring people around, kind of make it more of a party setting. And this guy seems to be not that type. So they come in. I didn't notice a shoulder thing, but they're, from the clip that I'd have paused, you can see they're about to do it again. Then he comes in and then he lies. He changes his statement multiple times and then still lies. I kind of believe the plaintiff. I think the plaintiff's credibility is a little bit stronger when he says, I was set up in these photos and that's not what my room looked like. And I can kind of believe that. It's very unlikely that the guy baked chicken and then took the entire pan into his room and just ate it out of the pan, or had all of this food or trash in there. And that they didn't notice that much earlier. It seems like he's been living there for a while. So I don't know. Then for him to be like, oh, this is a joke. Well, it's not. It's not a joke. I mean, as much as it's, you know, maybe not super formal, as much as maybe you don't agree with the allegations, it's like, really, I feel offended for the plaintiff because he has a general grievance you're countersuing from, and then you think it's like a joke. Well, quite frankly, you're in a position of power over the guy. You're what seems to be the master leaseholder. You're bringing your friend as a witness, so it's two of you against him. And I can only imagine if they think this is a joke, then they really didn't care about any formality or law, and they probably bullied him. Because the guy is very calm, he's put together, he's being polite, and they're like, yeah, this is a joke. Meanwhile, they're trying to ridicule the guy in court. And that's like so intolerable. And that's like a gross personality to have.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. So, if you move in with a roommate, do both roommates have a duty to keep a place clean?
Yes, they do. That's sort of the thing when you're living with someone. If you respect yourself or each other, keep the house clean.
There may be people who say, hey, it's not a big deal to me. I don't necessarily need to be clean all the time. If I want to live like a slob, I can.
No, that's not fair, I don't think, to the other person. You've got a duty to keep it clean.
Okay, do you?
Absolutely. You've got to keep it clean 100% of the time.
You know what, real quick, let's go to the guy with the dog. Maybe your dog craps all over the apartment.
No, he doesn't, but yeah, you have to be clean to live.
That is a cute dog going inside the courtroom.
What was it like living with them?
Very bad. Actually, I'm
They
pretty
seem
sure
mean and dishonest.
they are
Well, I don't
very.
know about that guy. I really didn't talk to him, so I shouldn't say that. He seems mean and dishonest. You, however, are a pig. Okay? I mean, I'm looking at that, and don't tell me that they staged that. They didn't stage that. There's a reason they wanted you out. Okay? It's not. You can't live like that and live with other people. You shouldn't live like that and live alone. Okay? You can't leave food lying around in your bedroom. It's going to bring stink, odor, roaches, all the other stuff. You can't. And I can see from the text that it wasn't a one-time, all of a sudden thing. It was something that you were doing that you shouldn't do. You have to be considerate of the people around you. But aside from that, it's just bad hygiene anyway. You shouldn't do it, all right? But I will pick any day someone who is a pig than someone who is a liar. Okay? So, number one, I'm going to...
I'm on the fence whether the guy was really a pig or not. I don't know. I feel like there's a strong possibility he was framed. And maybe there's some truth to that because maybe he was like a little messy. But as far as his room looking that bad, I don't know. I don't live with him. That's the only photo I've seen. I still maybe feel like, maybe there's some validity to his defense, like they staged my room. But as far as roommates go, yes, you do have a duty to be mindful. That's one, personal hygiene for yourself. You want to live in a clean environment, and that takes a lot of work and self-discipline to keep a space clean. And self-discipline is a pillar of self-care. Another thing is you have to be mindful of the people that you're living around. And it's not fair to them if you are messy. And when you have a roommate, you kind of owe that duty to them. And understand you have a roommate maybe because you don't want one, but because you need one financially. But however, that is the role that you play. When you guys are both roommates, they have to be clean and mindful of you the same that you have to be of them. That's common courtesy. We learned that, I think, in elementary school, to be fair and responsible. So in that sense, I do agree. So if he was messy, the room being messy, okay. The room having odors, that's a problem because the odors permeate the rest of the house, the rest of the apartment. If your clothes are on the floor and they're wet, could be a problem. If they're just on the floor and you haven't folded them, they're dirty, unless they're gym clothes and they smell really bad, it's probably not the end of the world. But for your own sake, you might want to have a hamper with a lid so it doesn't smell. You might want to have a trash can in your room with a lid so it doesn't smell. You might not want to leave food in your room. You might want to have a habit of doing the dishes and throwing the food out as a roommate. So let's conclude this out.
I'm going to order him to pay back the prorated portion, the rest of April that you weren't there, which is, rent is $800?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to order him to pay back the prorated portion for the rest of April after he threw you out, which he has no right to do, which is $586.66. I am also going to order him to pay back the $1,600 that you owed for the last 2 months, that you had paid him for 2 months in rent that you didn't get to enjoy. And that's a total of $2,186.66. He has a counterclaim for $1,500, and since he chose to behave in a way that absents himself from the courtroom, do I hear any evidence on the $1,500? Because I don't know a whole lot of judges who will be told by a litigant when they are asked, do you think this is a joke? Yeah, I think you're a joke. and then get a chance to litigate their $1,500. I just don't know. But let's see it anyway. Let's see what he did say about the $1,500. Loss of my time, having to clean the apartment, finding and taking a new tenant, and taking time off from work to do that. Let's see. Now, he threw you out, right? Okay. So that's loss of his time. 0 on the counterclaim. That is my judgment.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Lennon has been standing here outside the courtroom.
Having roommates is tricky. I caution tenants who have to get roommates or who become roommates in situations like this. Because in the same way that a landlord, is taking a roll of a die by moving in a tenant, and all you have is maybe a credit check, employment reference, a landlord reference, some bank statements. We're really hoping that this person is honest and that these references are legitimate and honest. When you're a roommate and you're renting from a person, there's not really a vetting process. It's very informal. So you're taking an even bigger gamble in that sense. Like, I don't even know who this is. And for both sides, for the person who's the master leaseholder or for the person that's the roommate, you're hoping that you get along with them. But it seems like they were both not a good fit. Like they were just two completely different personalities. And I don't know anything about the third roommate because eventually a third roommate moved in, but maybe that roommate was more the vibe of the main tenant and this guy simply wasn't, the plaintiff. But that's always a risk. And when you're in a position where you don't really deal with the landlord themselves, or where you're really uncomfortable because you're outnumbered by these people, he had his friend as a witness, so the friend was probably around intimidating him. It's just like you would leave. If you're being demanded to leave in this scenario, you're likely to leave. And you're really vulnerable because the landlord himself, if you had a contract with the landlord, you have a lot of protections. You have protections when you're a roommate as well, but the situation's more uncomfortable because it's more immediate because the person's actually there, like living with you. So this is like a bummer. But you will have to be very careful when you're in these scenarios and dealing with roommates. And so just always, as much as you can, be cautious. I did an entire video about that if you want to check it on my channel. It was like a cautionary video when tenants have to, be roommates with other tenants. I will hopefully remember to link that at the end, or you can check it on my channel. Otherwise, thank you for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.